Hello everybody and welcome to Tekkit! Quick note on what Tekkit is. It is a mod pack for Minecraft. It has a whole bunch of different mods with a whole bunch of different options, adding all kinds of new blocks and new features and new toys to play with. Also adds a whole new level of confusion. Today we will be taking a look at the teleporter. A long-range teleportation device can send you thousands and thousands of blocks away, which is actually pretty awesome. Here's one I prepared earlier. As you can see, I created a waypoint above me with teleporter 1. And you can see over there in the distance, teleporter 2 is just about 1,000 blocks away. And all of a sudden I'm there. Teleporter 1 is now 1,000 blocks away, and teleporter 2 is just above my head. So, let's take a look and see how these work. Here we are in a nice flat area where we can start building our stuff. First thing we need is a teleporter. Now, if you don't know how to build this stuff, there's a neat little feature inside of Tekkit where you can find what you're looking for. Just scroll through all your stuff, find what you're looking for, and hit the R button, and it will show you how to build things. And if you don't know how to build a certain specific thing, like this advanced circuit here, you just click on it, and it will show you how to make that one. And then you can just go the whole way down until you get to the base material, so you'll know exactly how to build things. But the first thing we need is a teleporter. Then we need a power source. I use the high voltage solar arrays just because they're the easiest and lowest maintenance. They're hard to make initially, but they work the best. Something to store that power, for example, the MFSU, which is basically a giant battery. Something to get the power from the source to the battery. I recommend the glass fiber cable. It supports up to 512 EU per tick, which I know doesn't really mean anything, but that's not what this tutorial is about. And it also has the lowest loss. Of course, at these short distances, it's not really gonna matter, but the glass fiber cable just looks best too. We're gonna need something to send a redstone signal to the teleporter. I use a lever, and I'll explain why later. We will also need something to send the redstone to. I use the redstone, or the red power add-on. Of course, there's so much stuff, it's hard to find anything. And the red alloy wire, because the red alloy wire can stick to the sides of blocks and to the bottom of blocks. It's just so much easier to use. You need a pulse former. They're kind of difficult to find because, there's a lot of stuff in there that looks the same. And I'll explain why as I'm building it. And you will also need a frequency transmitter to link the two teleporters together, the source and the receiving pad. So the first thing we need to do is set up the MFSUs. You just set up 4 of them, all pointed at each other, and you can use an electric wrench or just a regular copper wrench to point these in any direction you need them to be in. You set the teleporter in the center, and you have to set it up this way because the teleporter sucks out more juice than the little wires can handle. So you got to have something storing the power directly attached to the teleporter. Now what I did there from just that point to that point, which was about 1,000 blocks, with an inventory that was about half full, took about, I think, 1 million EU per MFSU. So that was about 4 million total. There's all kinds of maths and how much EU it's going to take to get from point A to point B, dependent on distance, how much you're transporting, and I can't do it. I would recommend looking at the wiki to get the math, I just throw 4 MFSUs and fill them to the brim with power. I have, on my public server that I go to, I have a really, really long one that uses about 2 million EU when you're fully loaded, completely loaded with full stacks and everything. I've never maxed out this setup, but I'm sure it's physically possible. You can add more MFSUs, but I can imagine that would take a little bit more finagling with the redstone. But all you have to do is use the glass wire to connect all the MFSUs together, and then you use the HV solar panels. I usually use about 5, but 4 seems to cover it pretty well. You can see that the sun's out, and we're charging up. It's a little slow, but it'll work. And then we got to set it up so that we have a redstone signal to the center teleport. Now this is where the red alloy wire comes in, because this can be kind of difficult. Because we don't want to put a redstone signal on the MFSU, because then it will turn off the MFSU. Now you could use insulated wire to run across the MFSU, that way the signal won't activate that block, but I just personally find it easier to run down and then out. And I'll just use these blocks just for distinction. And up these blocks. And this is where you have to use the pulse, because you have to send a very, very quick and short signal to the teleporter. Because when you're teleporting to great distances, like say that teleporter over there, outside of our loaded chunks, it will get caught in a loop and you'll get kicked from the server. Almost permanently, until somebody, either you under another account or somebody else entirely, breaks the redstone signal. This is also why you don't use buttons, because buttons will become stuck. You gotta use levers. Now, I don't know if we'll be able to see it because it is pretty quick. If we activate it, I think that's pointed in the wrong direction, which these pulses can be kind of annoying. I think that might be pointed in the wrong direction. I'm not 100% sure. No, I think that's right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we can just barely see it. Hard to see. Yeah. You can just barely see it. It goes so fast that you don't always see it. But that sends a very, very quick signal to the teleporter, letting the teleporter know that you want to go somewhere. So let's set up a second teleporter in the same exact way. And here we are with our second teleporter setup. Now it's not that far away from the first one, but this will be long enough to show off how everything works. Now we are getting power to the MFSUs. They're being charged. We have the redstone signal set up with a short burst going to the teleporter, and we have all the MFSUs pointed at the teleporter. So the last thing we have to do is use this frequency transmitter, right-click on the first teleporter, and then go over to the second one, and then right-click on the second one, and it will say Link Established. Now, quick side note. If you use this frequency transmitter right now on a third teleporter, that third teleporter will also be linked to the first teleporter. So it will be very, very confusing as to where you go when you flip the switch. So what you want to do to blank out the frequency transmitter is just right-click on an unused block and it will unlink the transmitter. And then from here, all we have to do is test and see what happens. Oh, and we're over there. Yay! And it's really that simple. I mean, you just got to make sure that you have power source set up into power storage, basically. Lots and lots of power storage. Pointed at the teleporter. And then just a redstone signal that goes to the teleporter. It's really that simple. Now, for an example as to why I do it this way, let's set up this first teleporter with just a button. You know, without this pulse thing, just a direct connection. And a button. And I'll have to do this on the other one as well. So I will see you in a second. And here we are at teleporter number 2. As you can see, I took out the pulsar and I put in just a normal button. Now, one would think that this would work just fine, because, I mean, you push in the button and it pops itself back out. But because when you teleport, you leave the loaded chunk, it acts like the power is still active. So while it works the first time, teleporter number 2 is still active. So you end up doing this. Basically, what ends up happening is you get sent back and forth between the two teleporters so quick that the server thinks you're hacking and kicks you out. Now, to go back into it, you get instantly kicked right back out again because you're coming back in right on top of the still active teleporter. So what you have to do is you have to either get somebody else or log in as a second account if you have one and destroy the teleporter. So that's why you use a lever, and that's why you use a pulse. That way you don't get kicked out. So have a nice day and see you in the next tutorial.